In this screencast, I'm going to show you how I go about setting up assessments, assignments in Edvance that assure validity and reliability. So this goes to answer standard H. So in Edvance, what you can do, you go down to the tests area and open that area up, and you'll see in here there are several different assignments. They call them tests in Edvance, but they're not necessarily just tests. They can be homework assignments or quizzes or whatever. And this first one on here, the Chapter 1 exam, this is an example of how I do a final unit exam for the students in my Bio 35 class to see how well they learned the Chapter 1 material that we covered, which is basically the introductory material in physiology, covering homeostasis and control systems and just general overview of what physiology is. So if we go in here, go into the edit test setting, first thing you see is the test settings tab is, sorry about that, it gives just basic info, title, gives the students instructions. In this case, it's a timed 30-minute exam covering the introduction to physiology material in Chapter 1. It tells the students that there are 17 random questions that are pulled from a question pool. The exam utilizes browser lock, which is a function that I can turn on inside Edvance that will lock the students' browsers so they can't switch over to another website or something like that to open up or to look up answers. And so it tells them they need to make sure they have that installed on their computer. And then it also tells them if they earn less than 70% on their first attempt, they're allowed one retake with a new set of questions. And then the pre-test confirmation, this is just a little message that pops up to just say, you know, basically, are you sure you're ready to take this? And again, it just gives them a brief summary of what they're about to do. And then the post-test confirmation, same idea, except this comes at the end, and it tells them if they earn less than 70% on their first attempt, then they're allowed to retake it with a new set of questions. And then the test complete message, once they're completely done, it tells them that they're able to review the answers after everyone has completed the exam. That's done to minimize sharing of answers from one student to another. So both the randomization and then not letting students see answers until everybody's completed the assignment helps to minimize cheating in the online world. And then there's some other settings. You can turn on browser lock or turn it off. You can put a password in if you want to. I don't usually do that in this class. Restrict date, just you basically set the time when it goes active and the time that it's due so that students can only access it during that time period. Generally, I didn't set it up in this class just because I left it open the whole time that this OTC practicum's going on, but normally these exams are active for a minimum of 4 days, but usually it's more like a week. Time limit 30 minutes. You can also go in and set individual assessment times if you need to. If there are students that because of disability are allowed extra time on assignments, this is where you go in and you set individual assessment times for those students. You can restrict re-entry to the test, meaning that they just access it once. If something happens, then you're going to have to basically reset it for them. So that's, again, I don't usually do this only because if there's just a minor glitch in the system, then I'm going to have to go in and reset the test for students. It makes it more difficult on my end. But if there is a glitch when they're taking it, they can come back. If you don't check this box, they can come back in and pick up where they left off and still have the same amount of time remaining, that sort of thing. And then the last sections down here, this is just, do you want the questions to appear normally, random, or a random block? In this case, I chose a random block of 17 questions. I'll show you that on the next screen in a second. Answer questions inline, no pop-ups. This, I usually check this just because sometimes pop-up blockers on students' computers will cause problems if the questions are being popped up inside their browser. And then how many questions per page. This is set at 1, but I'm going to go in right now and change it to 17, meaning that all of the questions on the exam are going to show at one time. I've been changing this recently because the Edvance system has been kind of slow at times, and it wastes students' time that they have to take the exam if only one question is coming up at a time. So I'm finding it's better just to have all the questions pop up at the same time and they can scroll down and answer them. And then this setting allow users to automatically retake the test 2 times or until a 70% is achieved. That's the general setting I do. I give them basically 2 chances in case the first chance or the first attempt that they do, there's some sort of a computer glitch that messes them up. They still have one other time. And also, if they don't do real well the first time, they'll get a new set of questions, and so they at least have one more chance to try to get to 70%. And then this is just when they're able to look at any feedback I give and review the correct answers. I've set it at once the students have taken all the students have taken the test, but there's other ones that they can't review it. They can review it after they complete it, or they can even get immediate feedback every time they answer a question. The sorting, this is just kind of administrative stuff. This just allows me to sort these things in different categories, so it's easy for me to find them when I need to. So that's the basic settings on an exam, in this case an exam, but it's the same sort of thing if you're doing this as a homework assignment or a quiz or something like that. Then in this section you just choose the questions. It's taking a second. You see how the system's a little bit slow lately. The questions in here, basically you have to have uploaded questions into your repository ahead of time. The repository is a section of Edvance where you can keep files, you can keep question pools, all those sorts of things, similar to some of the other learning management systems. Then once then from there you can go in and pull from whichever class, however you've set up your repository, you go in and find the folder where you have the questions. In this one, it was, where was it at? I pulled, for this particular exam, I pulled from right here, 1.1 Physiology Intro, True False Multiple Choice. So these are all the objective style questions in the pool. So I pulled from there. It pulls in all of those questions. Then you can go and basically choose whichever questions you want. You can even, in this case where it says required, it means this particular question here, it's a matching style question. This is required, meaning that everybody gets this question on their exam every time that they take the exam. But all these other ones down the list here, that one's required too, so that's another matching one that's required. But all the other ones on here are all random. Some are multiple choice, some are true false, all that. And so what happens, because I set it at 17 questions, basically that matching question and this ordering question up here will go on, and then the rest will all be true false multiple choice for this chapter 1 exam. Then, and you can toggle this here to show how many points are set for each one of these different questions. So then here, because this is a random test, the question ordering doesn't really come into play, but I'll show it to you real quick. You can go in here and choose the order in which questions are displayed to the students. But again, it's a randomized exam, so this doesn't really come into play on this particular one. And then the values, again, you can go in here and set the values. It's another section where you can set values, but because this is a random block, and this is actually a glitch in Edvance, that when you have required questions that are worth more than 1 point, the point total in each question is worth these numbers here get messed up. It's a glitch in the way Edvance works, so you have to make sure you set the correct point value in the grade book. Anyways, it's not too important, but it is a glitch in the system that I found. So again, once you get that all set up, you just you've got everything looking the way you want it to, all that good stuff. Then you just hit update or save. If this was the first time you were doing this, you'd hit the save button down at the bottom, and then go back to the test list. And it says, when the dates it's available. You can map it to certain gradebook items. It automatically creates a gradebook item, but if you want to map it to a different one or whatever, you can do that. Then what you need to do in Edvance is you need to go over to the lessons area, and you go down and you create a lesson. In this case, the lesson where this is found is called the Unit 1 exams. So you go into the Unit 1 exams lesson, and the first thing that it tells you, it gives you instructions: please complete all these Unit 1 exams and essays before the due date and time. And then it tells you how to install Browser Lock, the plugin, because this is the first time students are needing it in the class. It gives instructions on how to do that. And then there's your Chapter 1 exam. This is where you put the link over to the test area where the test lives. Essentially, the test lives in the test, or the exam lives in the tests area, and so this ends up just essentially being a link over there, and it gives them some initial instructions similar to what I put on the test itself. Tells them the name, and then when it's available, when it starts and when it ends. And so that's that one. The essay questions are similar. I can show you that real quick. And then there's the Chapter 2 exam. Here's the Chapter 2 essays, Chapter 3 exam, Chapter 3 essay. So students just need to work through each one of those short, either multiple choice true false, objective style exam for the chapter, and then they need to do an essay question, which is pulled from, if we go back here real quick, I'll show you the essay stuff real fast, because I don't want this screencast to go too much longer. It's already getting pretty long. If we go over here and find, say, like the Chapter 1 essays, go in here. It's a similar setup to what we just looked at with the exam. Hurry up. This thing is slow. But in this case, they're not timed on it. There's no time other than the due date. And then there's a series, in this case, of 4 different essays that it randomly pulls one essay for each question, or for each student to answer. It gives them some instructions telling them that this isn't a timed assignment. Make sure they watch their grammar, because they are looked at. That is looked at. And then one question, and that's about it. So I will do another screencast here in a second that shows you how, once the students submit these essays, how they're checked for plagiarism.